Local programming on KRWG made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
This is KRWG, TV, radio, online, news that matters. Now, across the Mesilla Valley and the borderland, the stories that shape our community. From the KRWG Broadcast Center at New Mexico State University, this is Newsmakers.
Thank you for joining us on this special edition of Newsmakers. As we've reported, the Democratic and Republican parties in Dona County have recently welcomed new chairmen. Recently, we spoke with Republican Chair Roman Jimenez, and today I'm pleased to welcome the new Democratic Chair, Christopher Schaljo. Christopher, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you here. To start off with, I'd like to get into some of the basics about how you came to New Mexico and became interested in politics.
Definitely. So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I moved down here 7 years ago tomorrow, actually. It'll be my 7-year anniversary down here. I started in St. Louis. I went to UMSL, took a couple classes at WashU, really got interested in politics, political science, public policy, but I really had an emphasis in border issues. I thought the border was, very interesting to me. I, wanted to learn more about it, and I met my partner Russell, and Russell was from Mesilla actually. So, one thing led to another, and I decided this is probably where I need to be. So I moved down here, enrolled in NMSU to finish out my undergrad, and finished in 2012 with a degree in government and an emphasis in public policy. So I really just found a home down here, and I found a love of the culture, a constant everyday culture shock, and I just decided to stay and call it home. And I started getting involved with some local campaigns, started out with a couple of city council races, got heavily involved in the Democratic Party, and then I kind of just went from there and just kept going and going and going, and now here I am.
And now you're the chair.
And now I'm the chair, yes.
So what was it about politics that really grabbed your interest? And if we should say you have a degree from New Mexico State University in government.
MSU graduate. Yeah. I think politics grabbed a hold of me because I always wanted to figure out how to make a change. And I was an Eagle Scout, I was in Boy Scouts all my life, and I constantly got that instilled in me that if you want to make a change, you got to do something about it. It's not just going to fall in your lap and you get to press a button and change comes naturally. So I got involved because I wanted to do something. I wanted to help move the Democratic Party in the direction that I thought was best in the 21st century, which was reaching out to people a little bit more. So here I am, and this is why I'm doing it, because I think that we have a really good opportunity at hand to help propel us in the direction we need to go in.
What an incredible time to be leading a county party. I mean, this is, I think people are more interested in politics than any time I can remember in my career, with the possible exception of the people who came to support President Obama when he first ran for president. That was also an electric time for a lot of different people. Do you see it that way?
I definitely do. You see such an increased movement and people wanting to get involved. You see so many people that are getting passionate about things that once they might have taken for granted, and now that there's kind of a little pushback or a little bit of a Republican stance on these issues that are unfavorable with Dona citizens as well as New Mexico citizens, and they're finally standing up and taking a little bit of a stance and saying, whoa, 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 we don't stand for this, we don't agree with this, and we're not going to sit down and take it. So you see that increased movement, you see people finally getting involved and saying, okay, what do I need to do? So this is a great time down here in Dona for the Democratic Party, as well as for candidates, because there's such a movement to get involved.
Yeah.
And it is great. It is just like when Obama ran in 2008. it's just a fabulous time to be down here and to get involved.
Yeah, and as you know, unlike some other places in the country, New Mexico Democrats did very well in 2016 with a big win for Hillary Clinton, and the party took back the state house. This was quite an accomplishment. Give me your thoughts on how you think the party accomplished this.
You know what? I think it was a joint effort with the Democratic Party in New Mexico, as well as our candidates. And down here, I was heavily involved during the election season in 2016, and I can tell you that we have candidates down here that were door knocking until their knuckles were bleeding, and they were running out of sneakers like no one's business. It was a great time for us down here, and you know, Maggie Toulouse-Oliver as Secretary of State, that was a great win for us as a state. And then we got the House, and then we even got a bigger majority in the Senate. So yeah, this is a great time for Democrats. And 2016, yes, it was a struggle for us. We have a Republican governor, and we obviously see that the economic policies of Governor Martinez, especially with the last election, was an outright shove and denial of those policies, because we did turn out such a great election for Democrats. So it's kind of a slap in the face saying, you know, this is who we are, we're here to take a stance, we disagree with what you're doing, and this is what we're going to do about it. Mm-hmm. So we're electing people that were more in line with what New Mexicans want.
Now the big question that everyone's asking, and it's a tough one, what do you think the National Democratic Party needs to do to win in 2018?
I think the DNC in 2018, we're starting to lay the groundwork for a positive movement and a positive outcome in the election. So right now, our movement and the grassroots organizing that we're doing is really helping register voters, reach out to new and older voters, making sure that they know what's going on. The best kind of voter is an informed voter, someone that knows what they're doing and knows the issues at hand and how they're going to vote. Another great thing that we're doing it with the DNC is organizing the grassroots and developing young leaders, getting young people involved. Also, with that being said, as a young person myself, I see a really big need for the young people within political parties. And as we see this whole resistance movement coming along and coming out, you see more and more young people wanting to get involved. And I think that's really where the DNC is going to hit home with it, is just the whole voter registration, new voters, reaching out to those voters, and then informing them a lot of what's going on.
It sounds like you're really talking a lot about very basic politics here, that you've got to get people registered to vote, and then they have to go out on election day, or in the case of New Mexico, fortunately we have early voting, getting out as early as they can get out there and voting. And certainly if we look at the numbers, in terms of comparing the 2016 and 2012 elections, particularly with young people, they did not vote in the same numbers. And a lot of people believe this was part of the reason that Hillary Clinton, while winning 3 million more votes, wasn't able to win the Electoral College.
Yeah, I think you had a little bit of a different situation in 2012. President Obama really did gear towards the younger generation when he was running. He really reached out to people in totally different ideas with social media, and he really started doing something that was a little bit new, and that was making huge movements towards the youth. Hillary Clinton did the same thing. She did win by over 3 million more votes, but we just fell short when it came to the Electoral College. And it's true, but we're going to do things differently this time around. You know, we have the governor's race ahead of us. We have Senator Heinrich up for re-election, and we're going to hit the ground running. Those are such key positions for us in New Mexico.
And there's another big race, of course, that is our local race for Congress, the seat held by Congressman Steve Pierce. It's already been marked as a priority by Democrats. Tell me, how can Democrats win that seat? It's been very, very difficult.
It has. So we had a we've had great candidates, Marilee Souls, Rocky Lada, and everything. What's great about this right now in this election is that we have Congressman Steve Pearce talking about running for governor, which will open up that seat to a Democrat, and we need to get a Democrat in there.
That's assuming he does.
That is assuming that he does. But with that being said, and right now with Trump being president, we see that Steve Pearce is not really aligning himself with the New Mexico and what New Mexicans want. He's more aligning himself with the Republican agenda of Donald Trump, voting down public health care and Obamacare or ACA, and really just gearing towards this Trump care idea that we have going on. And I think New Mexicans are finally understanding, as well as Democrats, that this is going to hurt people. This is going to hurt so many people in southern New Mexico. And we're going to take it into our own hands and try to get a Democrat in there, especially with the fight for the Organ Mountain Desert Peaks, which is a picture that we have right here. We have Steve Pearce wanting to do away with public lands. And, you know, Democrats, as well as people down here that wake up every morning and cherish our Organ Mountains, we want to preserve them as they are. So I think this election cycle with Steve Pearce is going to be one that he's not going to like, because he has so much not going for him.
Are you confident, though, that Democrats will be able to get a candidate who both can get the support of the people, but also will have the funding to be able to run a campaign against potentially, if Congressman Pearce runs for re-election, a very well-funded opponent?
You're right. What we have that is different than any other time is the fact that the DNC or the DCCC has put a mark on this position, and you know, we're going to see a lot of movement down here because it is such an important position. It is the largest congressional district ever, and it's going to be hard to win. It's going to be really hard to win, but with funding and with the right candidate, we can do that. And we have a lot of candidates that are starting to come up and say, you know, I'm here, I'm going to run, and I think we're going to have a really good crop of candidates coming up, and I'm really excited about that. So I hope that we're going to do really well in CD2, and we're going to take that back.
Okay, I want to move to state politics. On the state level, there is a lot of work that has to be done. New Mexico Governor Susana Martinez vetoed bills to increase the statewide minimum wage, including one that had broad support from her fellow Republicans and the business community. Your thoughts on this?
It's true. Susana Martinez has vetoed bills left and right. And the biggest one was, or one of the biggest ones was the statewide minimum wage increase. And Democrats and like-minded people believe that if you're working 40 hours a week, you should not be living under the poverty line. And we're gonna start looking at that a little bit more closely. We're very fortunate that Las Cruces has already taken a step in the right direction on that, and has really been the leader in that, raising minimum wage and getting that going. But we need to make sure that New Mexicans, as well as anyone really, can afford to put food on the table, as well as pay the electric and the water bill and have the basic necessities. And we know that the benefits of this is not only for that individual, but the economy. When a person has more expendable income, they're definitely going to put it back in the economy. They're going to go out to dinner, they're going to spend a little bit more when it comes to Christmas time. So I think that was a really big hit for people, is when she vetoed that.
Okay. Some people believe that the next big battle is required sick leave. Albuquerque voters are poised to cast their ballots on a proposal there in October. What are your thoughts on this?
Democrats support a policy to value workers' rights. That is one of our key foundations. No worker should be penalized for being sick. And another thing with that is that the Albuquerque voters do have that on the ballot right now. But also, if you look at Governor Martinez's initiative with linking teachers' sick days and their evaluations, not only are we seeing a drop in teachers and more teachers retiring or leaving the states, it's directly affecting our education system. I think that we need to take a look at it and see what it's doing, because no nobody should have to worry about paying an electric bill or being sick for the day if they have the flu. So I really think that we're going to see a huge change or a huge shift when we're talking about that, because of the whole teachers initiative with that. And I think that teachers are going to start coming out. And I mean, we're dead last as far as it goes with education, and that hurt us even more, was sick days and evaluations. So I think we're going to see a lot more going on with that here soon. And I think the next election cycle in 2018 is going to be huge with this whole sick pay and teachers and stuff like that as well.
Okay. Well, a lot of people, as you know, don't feel that Washington, D.C. is representing them right now. A big issue nationally and also especially in our area is ramped up immigration enforcement. Your thoughts on this and how this will play in 2018?
You're right. People aren't feeling that Washington, D.C. is representing them, especially down here in southern New Mexico. Our community is being hit by this even harder, Dona especially. Democrats value diversity, and we also value the contributions that immigrants bring to us and bring to our community. And we also recognize that many immigrants' situations are not what they seem to be on the surface. Republicans' one-size-fits-all immigration policy does not help anyone. It definitely goes against New Mexico values, splitting apart families. It shows a lack of compassion and respect for people.
Do you think Democrats have done a good enough job educating the public about this? You know, we've covered this obviously now for years, because there have been attempts, there's been attempt after attempt to pass immigration reform, and I am surprised by the number of people that I meet who know a little bit about the issue when I talk with them about it, aren't aware that the Senate passed comprehensive immigration reform, and that at the time they passed it, there's a very good chance that had it gone up for a vote in the House, that it would have passed. But at the time, John Boehner wouldn't allow it to go to a vote. And very few people that I talk to even know that. Is that frustrating?
It is. You're talking about the 2013 immigration reform, and it was a bipartisan immigration reform policy. In the Senate, there was Democrats and Republicans alike that were definitely a part of it. And it passed through the Senate, went to the House, and it was turned down. It was never heard. So instead, now we're dealt with the Trump administration's policy, where it's let's build a wall and have mass deportation. And it is frustrating, because we could have had this solved. But now our community, being a border community, we're hurt even more. Our workforce is hurting, our schools are hurting because our students are scared to go to school. You know, we do have a weird time that we're dealing with right now, and that is immigration and what's going on.
And I would imagine this is personal for you as well, because you said that you were drawn to this area because you had an interest in border issues, and anyone who's lived here 7 years in your case would really begin to appreciate the unique benefits that we have living in a binational community, the culture, and learning so much. This seems to me that this is something that is really central to our politics here.
It is. It definitely is, and it's going to hit home to not only me, but anyone that lives here, or it should, because we are a globalized community. We have Santa Teresa, we have Palomas right down there. I mean, we are a border town, and that kind of reminds me too, when I was a student here, there was a poster in the government department, and it said red or green, and it had a red chili and a green chili, and it said globalization on the top. And it's true. You know, that is a perfect sign of what we're all about down here is, you know, we send people to Mexico to work, and they send people here. We have a great workforce. And it does hurt. You know, this whole immigration policy is hurting everyone down here.
What do you make of what is being called the resistance movement? I mean, in our area, there has been enormous protest particularly on immigration, but it goes much deeper, and healthcare is another big issue, as we talked about earlier.
Yes. So actually on Saturday we had a unified outpouring in all the counties of New Mexico. There was a very good turnout for to stand up in unity towards healthcare initiatives and what's going on with the voting down ACA and with Trump Care and all this stuff, and not being able to even see the bill that's going on. And there was a huge turnout for that. And in the past, we've also had the Women's March, which was amazing across the entire state, not only the state, but the nation. And then you had the Unity March in Pride, and then you had the LGBT March, and then you also had the March for Science. And these are all real big resistance movements. They're not mean in nature. They're people coming together that are like-minded to stand up and say, this is what we stand for. This is who we are. This is what we believe in. And I think what we're getting out of this resistance movement is a huge opportunity to help get people involved. In the past, you might have seen a couple people getting together and holding a little group or gathering, or LGBTQ and this whole movement of Pride coming together and having these Pride marches in Pride Month, and but now you have even more groups sprouting up saying, like, this is what we're about, this is what we want to do. And it's really an awesome thing to think about. All these people that are like-minded coming together. You're not only going to find a home with these people, but you're going to find love and compassion and just people that you can talk with. So I think what we're getting out of it is a huge movement that's going to help our voter base, and it's going to help the Democratic Party further its extension or further its fingers within the community and help elect some really good candidates that will stand behind those issues that we're fighting for.
What do you think it will take, though, for the resistance movement to go beyond protests or go beyond single issues and do what you talked about earlier, registering people to vote, getting people out to the polls? You don't need everyone in the resistance movement to do that, but you certainly need a percentage.
It's true. I think what we're seeing right now with the resistance movement and doing these things is that we're seeing leaders pop up. And out of these leaders that are popping up, they're organizing more and more and getting more and more involved, which is great. But what we're seeing out of that is people that are now running for office, people that are now running to be an elected official, city council race, even student body president. You're seeing all these people start to believe that they can get the job done. And that's what's awesome about it. But not only that, but we're able to go out to these events and say, okay, well, guess what? I have a perfect job for you. I need someone to do this. I need someone to get a group of individuals together so we can talk about immigration reform, or we can talk about equal pay for women, or we can do anything like this. And that's what we're getting out of these groups. We're getting not only momentum, which is constant and growing, but we're also getting a great base, like that grassroots movement that we were talking about, and that's what's going to make the biggest difference down here.
Okay. Well, of course, so much has happened since the November election in such a short amount of time. A lot of people call it overwhelming. Tell me how this has been for you and other people that you work with.
Right now, every day is there's some kind of new development going on. Obviously, the Republicans are steering the country in the wrong direction, and us as Democrats, we're staying focused. We are being laser focused and getting what we need to get done. We're not falling over to the wayside. We're not letting it happen. And that means holding people like Donald Trump and Steve Pierce accountable for his vote, just like the vote to take away health care from New Mexicans. So we're going to be seeing even more and more going on with this, but it has affected people. But we are very fortunate to have people like Senator Udall and Senator Heinrich who are going to bat for us every day. And we see it, and we're very, very proud of it. But right now, we're moving forward. We have new energy. We have a purpose, and we invite people to join that purpose and to join our cause and to come out and help out and we're not going to take it laying down. We're definitely fighting for what we need to fight for.
And I guess that gives you hope, the fact that there are people who take whatever has happened and turn it around into trying to create change.
Definitely. It definitely gives me hope. And, you know, I went to so after the election, I was down in the dumps. You know, it hurt. It hurt bad. And the first big thing that came out of that was the Women's March. And I went to the one in Las Cruces. I wanted to stay home. I wanted to stay close. And it made me just giddy with excitement because so many people turned out and said, no, are you kidding me? We're not going to let this happen to us. And it does. It makes me happy, and it gives me hope that, you know, the future's bright. We're going to do this. We have Maggie Toulouse as Secretary of State. We have Governor Martino that is term limited, and we're going to get him a Democrat in there. And that gives me hope.
At the same time, as you know, and I'm sure you've read much more than I have about this, there's a lot of concern nationally about a divide in the Democratic Party between what's called the Warren-Sanders wing and everyone else, really. I mean, Senator Bernie Sanders led an incredible progressive movement, continues to do so, and so does Senator Elizabeth Warren. And as you know, some Democrats say that is powerful, but may not play in a presidential election, may not even play in some congressional elections, that there's a need for more moderate candidates. What are your thoughts on this?
Speaking to that, my thoughts really are is that we saw that happen. We witnessed it every day. And Democrats are taking notice of what's going on, and we're definitely trying to align people back to where we need to get. Because I think that after Donald Trump won, not only did we say, oh my God, what just happened, but progressives, moderates, conservatives, anyone that really falls under that Democratic House said, what did we just do? You know, so I think people are starting to align more to where we need to be, and people are taking notice of, okay, this did not work, and this is where we need to get. And down here in Dona, we have our monthly meetings, and we've been having a lot of different people showing up, and people that are wanting to get involved, whether they're on the progressive side, whether they're on the moderate side, whether they're diehard lifetime Democrats. You know,
and
they're all
where do
getting
you
involved.
see it shaking out? I mean, does it really depend on the race and the individual?
I think it depends on the race, and
Okay.
I think it depends on what the population sees of that area and what we need in there. And I think then you're going to put forth the candidate that's going to win in that election, and the people are going to get behind that candidate. And I think it's all about communication, learning what one side wants, learning what the other side wants, and then sitting down at a table and coming up with a game plan that will benefit all sides.
And knocking on doors.
And knocking
As
on
you said,
doors.
sometimes even when there's blood on the
knuckles and tennis shoes piling up.
New tennis shoes. All right. Christopher, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us at home. That is our time for this week. Join us this week on KRWG Radio. Every weekday, it's Morning Edition from 5 to 9, Fresh Air at 11, followed by Here and Now, noon to 2, and All Things Considered, 4 to 7. KRWG News is always online at krwg.org, and we'd love to hear from you. Email us with your story ideas and video submissions. The address is feedback@nmsu.edu. For all of us at KRWG News, I'm Fred Martino. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Newsmakers.